you are not your achievements. You're not the toys that you own. You're not the money that you have. You're not your podcast and all its listeners. You're not even really the memories that you make, the places that you've been, the six-pack abs that you have. These aren't the things that define you.
Most hosts never achieve the results they hoped for. They're falling short on listenership and monetization, meaning their message isn't being heard and their show ends up costing them money. This podcast was created to help you grow your listenership and make money while you're at it. Get ready to take notes. Here's your host, Adam Adams.
Hey, what's up, podcaster? It's your host, Adam A. Adams, and today I've got a story from when I was a kid. My grandmother, she lived in close to Salt Lake City, like up on the mountain, at the base of the mountain. And one day I looked up to the top of the mountain. I just saw this tree that just appeared to be like exactly on the crest of the mountain. And I thought it would be the coolest thing for me to be able to achieve that tree, to be able to touch the tree, to be able to say that I went there at the very, very top of the mountain. And I was pretty excited. So I asked my parents, I asked my grandma, they said it was dangerous. They said I shouldn't. My goal was to be at the very top of that mountain, the top of that tree. I felt like Captain Cook, Magellan, Marco Polo, etc. I thought, I want to go somewhere that no one else has gone. I want to do something that nobody else has done. And truthfully, I also thought that it would make me a better person. I thought that, hey, if I touch that tree, I'll be cooler. I'll have more friends. I'll have a story or whatever. And in fact, I didn't come away with such a great story. I wanted to get permission from my parents, from my grandma, and it wasn't easy trying to convince them because it was fairly dangerous. It was really steep. There was not a trail that went to it. So you just really had to climb up the side of the mountain. There's dangers of rattlesnakes for sure in that area, mountain lions and other things. They didn't really think it was a good idea, but I had my heart set on it and I can be a little convincing when I want to. So one day I went and they allowed me to go and hike. So I'm hiking. It's super duper rocky. Like I'm losing my footing and there's things that you can climb up. And by the way, on my way down the hill, those were much more challenging. Like these things that you could barely climb up. It's almost impossible when you're facing down the hill. You don't have the same grip. You don't have the same sight visually, and so you can't really see what's underneath. So it was hard coming back down, but as I'm heading up to try to touch this tree, this amazing, majestic tree that just seemed to be right at the peak of the mountain, it was all right. I kept looking at the tree. I kept thinking, how am I going to go around? What am I going to climb up? How am I going to get up that? And eventually I made it. Eventually I got to the tree. But it was very underwhelming, and I was, in fact, quite disappointed. I would say just confused and disoriented because the tree was not at the freaking top of the mountain. The tree wasn't even close to the top of the mountain. And in fact, I would say I probably had another 100 miles to go of hiking, probably at a minimum, if I wanted to get to the actual top of the mountains. So I get up here. And what I notice is it's just the top of what you can see. I was like, is this the same tree? I was staring at it the whole time. I was following it the whole time. I kept my eye on this tree the whole time. But when I got to the tree, I was like, this can't be that tree. What did I do to mess up? Because the mountain goes on so much farther. And I thought it was quite disappointing. And I thought about like, I'm going to have to go back down the hill and I was going to tell everybody that I climbed to the very top of the mountain, but that wasn't even close to the top of the mountain. And so as I'm heading up, as I'm heading down to the tree, it's a bunch of disappointment. I felt empty-handed. I felt like a failure. And I went to this thing that I thought would change my life. I went to this thing. I achieved this goal that I thought would make me a better person, a cooler person, smarter, whatever. I thought that ultimately by attaining this goal, this destination, that I would be better. And what I'm realizing is that I made a small mistake that a lot of us make. You might be making it right now with your business, with your podcast, with your health, with something. There's a good chance that you're making the mistake that I was making. And the big takeaway, the big learning lesson that I got is that unfortunately, I was focused so much on this tree that I didn't end up paying close attention to all of the blessings, all of the benefits, all of the cool things. For example, I would say by looking at just the tree and only thinking about the tree, I didn't notice, for example, just the view, like just turning around and seeing the view of the city. I missed probably the birds chirping, the symphony of being in wilderness, into nature, that beautiful, lovely symphony. The sun, the vitamin D, the sun, the fresh air, the smells, the flowers. I feel like I missed all of these things because I was so very focused on the destination, but not very focused on the journey, not very focused on the fun parts, not living in the moment. And I see that with a lot of people. Okay. I see that with me in many other ways. I see that with very successful people who make a lot of money, who finally buy that house with the pool in the living room, with they're finally in that neighborhood that they always wanted to live in. It's a multi-million-dollar neighborhood or whatever. They're looking and they can see this one thing and they're like, I made it. But here's the thing. A lot of those people, you and I probably included, a lot of us, when we make it, we get to this place and we finally got that pool in our living room. We finally got that view in our backyard. We finally got that Ferrari. We finally got that super attractive life partner that we can show off. Finally are the best dressed. We got our master's degree, our doctorate degree. We got our high-paying job. We got our prestigious this or prestigious that. We got our six-pack abs or bodybuilding competition, the triathlon we always want to do. We finally did a marathon. We got this achievement. And it's less fulfilling. I know too many multimillionaires that say, I achieved this thing, but I'm still the exact same person. I achieved this thing. I finally got that house. I finally got that car. Well-traveled. I've been all over the world. But like, there's still an emptiness in us if we're focused on just the tree. There's an emptiness if we're focused on just the six-pack abs. There's emptiness when we focus on just having 1 million followers or listeners for our podcast. There's emptiness when go through the motions in order to achieve our dream, make more money, get more followers, but we miss the point about the flowers, the view, the smells, the fresh air, the vitamin D. And so I wanted to spend a couple of minutes as I'm reflecting on this, and I want to have that conversation with you. I want to talk about, like, you are not your achievements. You're not the toys that you own. You're not the money that you have. You're not your podcast and all its listeners. You're not even really the memories that you make, the places that you've been, the six-pack abs that you have. These aren't the things that define you. These aren't the things that should define me, although I get lost in them quite often. You know, I wanted to do that bodybuilding show that you've heard me talk about a little bit. And it's funny that at the end of the bodybuilding show, actually between the bodybuilding show, I pigged out on some food. I ate like a shit ton of food, drank my first beer in weeks. Within 2 days, probably a day and a half, I gained 17.5 pounds. I think in the first day alone, I gained like 12.5 pounds. And then by the very next day, it was like another 5 pounds. So I went from 187.5 pounds to 205 pounds plus just in 2 days, just about a day and a half. And it's like, I don't know what I might have been thinking with the bodybuilding show. Now, I'm impressed that I did it. I'm happy that I did it. I'm proud that I did it. I'm grateful for the photos of it. I'm grateful for some of the things that I learned along the way, but I don't want to be hung up or tied into that being my identity. I don't want to be hung up or tied into how many listeners I have for my podcast, how much money I make for my podcast. We've got to stop. We've got to smell the roses. We've got to listen to the birds chirping. We've got to feel the sun on us and not only look at that thing that we want to achieve, not only think about that. And these are the things that I think a lot of us get lost into. So I wanted to share just a little bit of this experience that I had. This is a true story. When I was a kid at my grandma's house, I literally thought that tree was at the top. And it was like the hardest thing to get there. And the underwhelm when I finally arrived, in large part because it wasn't actually the top of the mountain. Just like when I finally got my six-pack abs when I was 40 years old, when I did my bodybuilding competition, or when I did a triathlon, or some of those things that we're excited about, that we take time and energy and effort. And there are some rewarding parts to it. There are some great memories to it, but we just shouldn't get caught up in, is my podcast making money? We shouldn't be caught up in, how much money did I make? Or how many listeners do I have? Or do I have a podcast? Because the truth of the matter, the fact is that doesn't define you. You will be lost. You will be sad. You will be depressed. You will be disoriented. You will be underwhelmed. And in fact, many people who become depressed, especially after they achieve one of these things, after they make their first $1 million, after they buy the Ferrari. Now you've owned the Ferrari and it's like, now what? What's on the other side? I got to the tree, but it's not even the top of the mountain. And you think that everything will change just because you arrive. So my hope for you is that you enjoy your journey, that you enjoy your podcast, that you let it take time. That when you finish that bodybuilding competition, that you don't just gain 17.5 pounds the very next day. That when you are laying in your pool that's in your living room, in your multi-million-dollar mansion, you don't just think to yourself, hey, I'm still me. I haven't changed. I still live with my demons. I'm not as happy as I want. Whatever it is that might resonate with you. I'm hoping that has some support and help to you. I'm asking you to just smell the roses, feel the warmth of the sun, enjoy the outdoors and the exercise of climbing to that tree, enjoy the health benefits of working toward six-pack abs or bodybuilding competition. But don't think that the destination, don't think that the goal is the good part. The good part is the motions that get you there. The good part is living your life. It's interesting because this constantly happens for me. And I'm sure this will benefit just one person. And if you can think of somebody outside of yourself that is going through something or needs to hear this message, is working toward their doctorate degree just to impress their family, their partner, to prove that they can, is working on that six-pack or that marathon, but you can see that they're not completely fulfilled with the journey. They say the joy is in the journey, but they're not completely fulfilled, or you might not be completely fulfilled with the journey. I want you to stop and decide now, today, to freaking enjoy your podcast. Enjoy your health journey. It doesn't matter where you get or when you get there. It matters more of how you get there. If you're doing it in a healthy way, if you're doing it with loving relationships, if you're doing it with integrity, if you're doing it with your head on straight, then you can allow yourself to turn around and get your eye off the tree just for a second and look at where you are today, to smell those flowers and feel the sun, because there is beauty in the journey. There is joy in the journey. So I'm going to continue to challenge myself, my mind, my body, my spirit. I'm going to continue to do things that make me learn more about myself, like a bodybuilding show, or getting stronger or healthier or fitter or friendlier or richer, better relationships with my family, my kids. I'm going to continue to have these goals of becoming the best that I can, but I'm going to try better to remember that it doesn't end when you get to the tree. It ends way longer than that. So it's not about the destination. It's about being there, soaking up the sun, loving where you are, enjoying where you are, and being happy and fulfilled with what you're doing today. And I hope that helps. Every other episode for the podcast on podcasting is an interview episode. Well, for the most part, I was doing this bodybuilding thing and I took a couple of weeks off where you had more of the interviews. This is a solo episode, but the next episode's an interview episode. And I truly believe that I ask great questions that will support you in your journey so that you can be the best podcaster. You can make the most amount of money, etc. I want to support you and help you. And that's what I did. I interviewed somebody and I asked the best questions that I think that you would ask if you were there. And if you weren't going to ask, I was trying to ask questions that you needed to know. So that's the next episode. It's an interview episode. I don't want you to miss it. This one was short, so take the time. And I'll see you on the next episode where we are having an interview with somebody who's in their journey. And you're going to learn a little bit from them on how to be a better podcaster. I'll see you on that episode. Oh, hey, because 3 of my clients came to me recently looking to find a way to have their podcast make them money instead of cost them money. We put together a resource for some of our clients, and I want to give it to you as well. It's something that did actually seem to help, because One of them is now making $2,600 a month. Another one's $4,500 a month. And the third is making between $5,000 and $10,000 each month. And so it's been a resource that's been incredibly valuable to them. It's our sponsor sheet template. It's a template of a sponsor sheet, and it gives you something that you can hand to potential sponsors and hopefully also be making $2,600, $4,500, or between $5,000 and $10,000 regularly each month with your podcast. So this has been a contributing factor to helping all three of those clients turn their podcast into an additional income stream for them. And the way that you can find it is just going to our website, growyourshow.com, but put in /templates, growyourshow.com /templates. And then you can actually download that template and others that could be valuable to your podcasting experience. I'll see you on the next episode.